Question 1. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent pattern of high CPU utilization and increased application response times on a critical Oracle WebLogic Server 12c instance. Application logs show intermittent errors related to thread exhaustion. Which of the following approaches represents the most professional and effective method for diagnosing and resolving this issue? Option A. Immediately restart the WebLogic server instance to clear any transient issues. Option B. Increase the JVM heap size significantly to accommodate potential memory spikes. Option C. Analyze thread dumps and heap dumps from the server, correlating findings with WebLogic server logs and performance metrics. Option D. Disable detailed diagnostic logging and monitoring to reduce system overhead. The correct answer is A. Immediately restart the WebLogic server instance to clear any transient issues. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, identifying and resolving performance bottlenecks that impact application availability and user experience. The monitoring system's output, while indicative of a problem, requires careful interpretation to pinpoint the root cause. A rushed or incomplete analysis can lead to misdiagnosis, ineffective remediation, and prolonged downtime, all of which carry significant business and reputational costs. Furthermore, in a regulated environment, failure to address performance issues promptly can lead to non-compliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, and potentially impact data integrity or security if applications become unresponsive. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic investigation of the identified symptoms. Focusing on thread dumps and heap dumps provides direct evidence of the application's runtime state. Thread dumps reveal the execution paths of threads, highlighting potential deadlocks, live locks, or excessive thread contention, which are common causes of high CPU utilization and unresponsiveness. Heap dumps, on the other hand, expose memory allocation patterns, helping to identify memory leaks or excessive object creation that can lead to garbage collection pauses and performance degradation. Analyzing these artifacts in conjunction with WebLogic server logs and performance metrics, like response times, throughput, and error rates, allows for a comprehensive understanding of the issue. This methodical approach aligns with best practices for incident response and problem resolution, ensuring that the underlying cause is addressed rather than just the symptoms. From a regulatory perspective, this thoroughness demonstrates due diligence in maintaining system stability and availability, crucial for meeting operational requirements and compliance mandates. Incorrect approaches analysis. Restarting the server without investigation is a common but often ineffective short-term fix. While it might temporarily alleviate the symptoms, it fails to address the root cause. If the issue is a memory leak or a deadlock, the problem will likely recur, potentially with greater severity. This approach represents a failure to adhere to proper incident management procedures and demonstrates a lack of proactive problem solving, which can be seen as a breach of operational responsibility, especially if SLAs are in place. Increasing JVM heap size without understanding the memory usage is also problematic. While insufficient heap can cause performance issues, an excessively large heap can lead to longer garbage collection pauses, negatively impacting performance. Without analyzing heap dumps, this action is a guess that could worsen the situation. This approach lacks a data-driven decision-making process, which is a fundamental failure in professional system administration and can lead to resource wastage and suboptimal performance, potentially violating efficiency guidelines. Disabling specific WebLogic server diagnostic features, such as detailed logging or monitoring, is counterproductive. These features are designed to provide the necessary data for troubleshooting. Disabling them hinders the ability to diagnose the problem effectively and can be seen as an attempt to hide or ignore the issue, which is ethically questionable and can lead to regulatory noncompliance if it prevents proper auditing or reporting. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach performance issues by first gathering all available diagnostic data. This includes logs, performance metrics, and runtime artifacts like thread and heap dumps. The next step is to analyze this data systematically to identify patterns and potential root causes. Based on the analysis, a targeted remediation strategy should be developed and implemented. Post-remediation, continuous monitoring is essential to confirm the issue is resolved and to prevent recurrence. This data-driven, methodical approach ensures efficient problem resolution, minimizes downtime, and upholds professional standards and any applicable regulatory requirements for system stability and performance. Question 2. The risk matrix shows a high-priority vulnerability related to the default accessibility of the WebLogic Server 12c administration console. Which of the following approaches best mitigates this risk while ensuring administrative functionality? Option A. Disable the administration console entirely to eliminate any potential access. Option B. Develop and implement a complex, custom authentication solution for the administration console without prior testing. Option C. Leave the administration console accessible with its default credentials to ensure ease of access for all administrators. Option D. Restrict access to the administration console by disabling its default access and enabling it only when required for specific administrative tasks, using secure authentication methods. The correct answer is A. Disable the administration console entirely to eliminate any potential access. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, balancing security hardening with application functionality. The risk matrix highlights a potential vulnerability in the default configuration of the administration console, which is a critical component for managing the WebLogic domain. The challenge lies in implementing necessary security controls without disrupting the day-to-day operations of applications deployed on the server, which rely on the console for configuration and monitoring. A hasty or incomplete security implementation could lead to operational downtime or expose the system to further risks. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased and controlled implementation of security measures, specifically focusing on restricting access to the administration console. This aligns with best practices for secure system administration and the principle of least privilege. By disabling the default console access and enabling it only when necessary for administrative tasks, the attack surface is significantly reduced. This approach minimizes the risk of unauthorized access while ensuring that administrators can still perform their duties. The Oracle WebLogic Server 12c documentation and security guides emphasize such granular control over access to sensitive administrative interfaces. This method is also compliant with general security principles that advocate for minimizing exposure of critical management tools. Incorrect approaches analysis. Disabling the administration console entirely without providing an alternative administrative mechanism is a regulatory and ethical failure. It directly impedes the ability of authorized administrators to perform essential management and maintenance tasks, potentially leading to system instability and non-compliance with operational requirements. This approach violates the principle of operational continuity. Leaving the administration console accessible with default credentials or weak authentication is a severe security and ethical lapse. It exposes the WebLogic domain to significant risks of unauthorized access, data breaches, and system compromise. This directly contravenes security best practices and regulatory requirements for protecting sensitive information and system integrity. Implementing a complex custom authentication mechanism for the administration console without thorough testing and validation is also problematic. While the intent might be to enhance security, an untested custom solution can introduce new vulnerabilities or incompatibilities, leading to unexpected failures and potential security gaps. This approach lacks the rigor and validation expected in a production environment and could inadvertently weaken security or disrupt operations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach security hardening by first understanding the specific risks identified as per the risk matrix. The decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the core requirement. Secure the administration console. 2. Evaluating potential solutions against security best practices and operational impact. 3. Prioritizing solutions that minimize risk while maintaining essential functionality. 4. Consulting official documentation and security guidelines for recommended configurations. 5. Implementing changes in a controlled manner with thorough testing and rollback plans. 6. Ensuring that all implemented security measures are documented and auditable. Question 3. The assessment process reveals that a critical WebLogic server cluster, responsible for processing sensitive customer data, is configured to communicate with its managed servers using an insecure protocol. The administrator is tasked with implementing a secure communication channel between the administration server and the managed servers to protect data integrity and confidentiality. Which of the following approaches best addresses this security requirement while adhering to Oracle WebLogic Server 12c administration best practices? Option A. Implement SSL/TLS using self-signed certificates for both the administration server and managed servers, without distributing these certificates to any client applications. Option B. Configure SSL/TLS for the WebLogic server using a certificate issued by a Trusted Certificate Authority (CA), and ensure that all client applications connecting to the managed servers are configured to trust this CA. Option C. Disable all network-level security protocols and rely solely on the inherent security features of the WebLogic server's internal communication mechanisms. Option D. Configure SSL/TLS to use only the oldest supported SSL v3 protocol and a limited set of weak cipher suites to maximize compatibility with legacy client applications. The correct answer is B. Configure SSL/TLS for the WebLogic server using a certificate issued by a Trusted Certificate Authority (CA), and ensure that all client applications connecting to the managed servers are configured to trust this CA. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, ensuring secure and compliant communication between distributed components. The professional challenge lies in selecting the appropriate security configuration that balances robust protection with operational efficiency, while strictly adhering to the security mandates defined by Oracle's best practices and potentially internal organizational policies that align with industry standards. Misconfiguration can lead to vulnerabilities, data breaches, or performance degradation, all of which have significant operational and reputational consequences. Need for deep understanding of SSL/TLS protocols, certificate management, and WebLogic security features is paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves configuring SSL/TLS using a Trusted Certificate Authority (CA) for the WebLogic server's identity and ensuring that the client applications are configured to trust the server's certificate. This is best professional practice because it leverages industry-standard, proven security mechanisms. Using a trusted CA ensures that the server's identity can be reliably verified by clients, preventing man-in-the-middle attacks. Proper trust store configuration on the client side ensures that only legitimate servers are communicated with. This aligns with the security principles emphasized in Oracle WebLogic Server 12c documentation and general cybersecurity best practices, aiming to establish a secure, authenticated, and encrypted channel. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to disable SSL/TLS entirely or use self-signed certificates without proper trust management. Disabling SSL/TLS is a severe security failure, exposing all communication to eavesdropping and tampering. Using self-signed certificates without distributing and trusting them on all client systems creates a false sense of security. While encryption might be present, the identity of the server cannot be reliably verified, making it susceptible to man-in-the-middle attacks. This violates fundamental security principles and exposes the system to significant risks. Another incorrect approach is to use weak or outdated SSL/TLS protocols and cipher suites. This is a regulatory and security failure because it leaves the communication vulnerable to known exploits and attacks that target these weaknesses. Modern security standards mandate the use of strong, up-to-date protocols like TLS-1, 2 or 1, 3, and secure cipher suites. Relying on outdated configurations is a direct contravention of security best practices and can lead to compliance issues if specific security standards are mandated. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on network-level security, e.g., firewalls, to protect communication between WebLogic server components without implementing transport layer security. While firewalls are a crucial part of a defense-in-depth strategy, they do not encrypt the data in transit. If network security is compromised, sensitive data exchanged between WebLogic components would be exposed. Transport layer security, SSL/TLS, provides an essential layer of encryption and authentication that is independent of network segmentation, ensuring data confidentiality and integrity even if the network perimeter is breached. Professional reasoning. When faced with configuring secure communication in WebLogic server, a professional should first identify the security requirements and compliance mandates. This involves understanding the sensitivity of the data being transmitted and any regulatory obligations. The next step is to consult Oracle's official documentation for WebLogic Server 12c, specifically sections related to security, SSL/TLS configuration, and certificate management. This ensures adherence to vendor best practices. The decision-making process should prioritize established security protocols and industry standards. When evaluating different security configurations, professionals must consider the trade-offs between security strength, performance impact, and administrative overhead. The goal is always to implement the most secure solution that meets operational needs and compliance requirements, with a bias towards stronger security when in doubt. Regular review and updates of security configurations are also critical to address evolving threats. Question 4. What factors determine the appropriate level of detail for logging sensitive customer data within Oracle WebLogic Server 12c logs during a performance troubleshooting exercise, considering U.S. regulatory frameworks for data privacy? Option A. The sensitivity of the customer data being logged, the specific U.S. data privacy regulations applicable to the data, and the principle of data minimization. Option B. The total volume of log data generated and the available disk space on the WebLogic server. Option C. The ease of accessing and interpreting the log files without any data masking or anonymization. Option D. The urgency of resolving the performance issue and the administrator's personal familiarity with the customer's data. The correct answer is A. The sensitivity of the customer data being logged, the specific U.S. data privacy regulations applicable to the data, and the principle of data minimization. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to data security and compliance within a WebLogic server environment. The administrator is tasked with balancing the need for efficient troubleshooting with the imperative to protect sensitive customer data, which is a core responsibility governed by data privacy regulations. Careful judgment is required to ensure that investigative actions do not inadvertently lead to data breaches or noncompliance. The correct approach emphasizes minimizing data exposure and adhering to established security protocols. This aligns with best professional practices and regulatory requirements for data protection, such as those outlined in U.S. federal laws like HIPAA for healthcare data or PCI DSS for payment card data. Depending on the specific industry, by anonymizing or masking sensitive data before logging or analysis, the administrator upholds the principle of least privilege and data minimization, thereby reducing the risk of unauthorized access or disclosure. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining customer trust and avoiding legal repercussions. An incorrect approach that involves logging all sensitive data without masking or anonymization represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This directly violates data privacy principles and could lead to severe penalties under relevant U.S. data protection laws. Such an action exposes the organization to the risk of data breaches, reputational damage, and legal liabilities. Another incorrect approach, such as disabling logging altogether to avoid data exposure, is also professionally unacceptable. While it might seem to prevent data leakage, it cripples the ability to monitor system health, diagnose issues, and maintain security, which are essential administrative functions and often mandated by compliance frameworks. This failure to adequately monitor and secure the environment can itself lead to security vulnerabilities and noncompliance. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes risk assessment and compliance. This involves understanding the specific data types being handled, the applicable regulatory landscape, and the potential impact of any administrative action. When troubleshooting, the administrator should first consider less intrusive methods. If direct access to sensitive data is unavoidable for diagnosis, then strict controls, such as temporary, role-based access with comprehensive auditing, and immediate data masking or anonymization after the diagnostic task is complete, should be implemented. Always consult internal security policies and legal counsel when in doubt. Question 5. When evaluating potential process optimizations for a high-traffic Oracle WebLogic Server 12c environment experiencing intermittent response time degradation, which of the following actions demonstrates the most professional and effective approach to identifying and resolving the root cause? Option A. Immediately adjust JVM heap size and garbage collection parameters based on general best practices found in online forums. Option B. Proactively increase the maximum capacity of the WebLogic server's thread pools and connection pools to accommodate anticipated load spikes. Option C. Rely on application developer feedback regarding perceived performance issues and implement their suggested tuning parameters without independent verification. Option D. Systematically monitor key performance indicators, KPI, such as thread usage, request latency, and resource utilization. Analyze the collected data to pinpoint specific bottlenecks, and then implement targeted configuration changes in a controlled test environment before production deployment. The correct answer is B. Proactively increase the maximum capacity of the WebLogic server's thread pools and connection pools to accommodate anticipated load spikes. Explanation: this scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, optimizing performance without compromising the integrity and availability of critical applications. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for improved response times with the long-term stability and security of the environment, all while adhering to operational best practices and potentially internal compliance policies. A hasty or unverified change can lead to unforeseen performance degradation, increased error rates, or even service outages, impacting business operations and user trust. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it emphasizes a systematic, data-driven, and controlled method for process optimization. This involves understanding the current state through monitoring, identifying specific bottlenecks, implementing changes in a controlled manner, e.g., in a development or staging environment first, and rigorously testing the impact before deploying to production. This methodology minimizes risk, ensures that optimizations are effective, and provides a clear audit trail. It aligns with general IT best practices for change management and operational excellence, which are implicitly expected in a professional administration role. While the 1Z0-133 exam focuses on technical administration, the underlying principle of responsible and effective system management is paramount. An incorrect approach that involves immediately increasing thread pool sizes without prior analysis is professionally unacceptable. This is because it bypasses the fundamental step of diagnosing the root cause of performance issues. It's a shotgun approach that might coincidentally improve performance in some cases, but could also exacerbate resource contention, lead to excessive memory consumption, or mask underlying application-level problems. This lack of diagnostic rigor is a failure in professional judgment and can lead to instability. Another incorrect approach, making configuration changes based solely on anecdotal evidence or common wisdom from online forums without validating them against the specific environment and application behavior, is also professionally unsound. This ignores the unique characteristics of the deployed applications and the specific workload. It can lead to suboptimal or even detrimental configurations. This approach demonstrates a lack of critical thinking and reliance on unverified information, which is a significant professional failing. Finally, implementing changes directly in the production environment without a rollback plan or adequate testing is a severe professional and operational risk. This demonstrates a disregard for business continuity and system stability. It violates standard change management procedures designed to protect production systems from unintended consequences. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the problem. Clearly define the performance issue being addressed. 2. Gather data. Utilize WebLogic server monitoring tools, e.g., console, WLSD, Fusion middleware control, and application logs to collect metrics on CPU usage, memory, thread activity, network I/O, and application-specific performance indicators. 3. Analyze data. Identify the specific bottlenecks or areas of contention. Is it CPU-bound, I/O bound, or related to application logic? 4. Formulate hypotheses. Based on the analysis, propose potential solutions. 5. Test solutions. Implement proposed changes in a non-production environment and measure their impact. 6. Plan for production. If testing is successful, develop a detailed deployment plan including rollback procedures and communication strategies. 7. Implement and monitor. Deploy the change to production during a maintenance window and closely monitor system performance and application behavior. 8. Document. Record all changes, their rationale, and their observed impact. Question 6. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing a new caching strategy for the Oracle WebLogic Server 12c environment could significantly reduce response times for frequently accessed dynamic content, leading to improved user experience and potentially higher transaction volumes. However, this strategy requires modifying core server configurations and introducing a third-party caching library. What is the most professional and responsible approach to adopting this optimization? Option A. Implement the caching strategy in production, but disable it during peak hours to mitigate immediate risks, planning to re-enable it gradually as confidence grows. Option B. Conduct thorough testing of the new caching strategy in a dedicated staging or development environment that mirrors the production setup, including load testing and security vulnerability scans. Before considering a production rollout, Option C. Deploy the new caching strategy directly to the production environment after a brief review of the vendor's documentation, prioritizing immediate performance gains. Option D. Reject the caching strategy altogether due to the complexity of modifying core server configurations and the introduction of a third-party library, opting to maintain the current, less efficient configuration. The correct answer is C. Deploy the new caching strategy directly to the production environment after a brief review of the vendor's documentation, prioritizing immediate performance gains. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT administration, balancing performance optimization with resource constraints and potential operational risks. The administrator must consider not only the immediate gains in processing speed, but also the long-term implications for stability, security, and compliance. The professional challenge lies in making a decision that is technically sound, cost-effective, and adheres to established operational policies and potential regulatory requirements, even if those are not explicitly stated in the prompt, but are implicit in responsible system administration. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and controlled method for implementing changes. Thorough testing in a non-production environment ensures that the proposed optimization does not introduce unforeseen issues, such as performance degradation under load, security vulnerabilities, or compatibility problems with other applications. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of costly downtime and reputational damage. Adhering to established change management procedures, which are standard in professional IT environments, ensures that all stakeholders are aware of the proposed changes and their potential impact, and that rollback plans are in place. This aligns with the principle of due diligence in system management. An incorrect approach that involves immediately deploying the optimization to production without adequate testing is professionally unacceptable. This bypasses critical quality assurance steps and introduces a high risk of system instability or failure. Such an action could lead to significant business disruption, financial losses, and a breach of service-level agreements, SLAs. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of responsibility towards the operational integrity of the system and the users who depend on it. Another incorrect approach, which is to abandon the optimization due to perceived complexity, is also professionally deficient. Caution is warranted. Completely disregarding a potentially beneficial optimization without a thorough evaluation of its feasibility and risks is a failure to explore opportunities for improvement. This can lead to a system that is less efficient than it could be, potentially impacting business operations and competitiveness over time. It represents a missed opportunity for proactive system enhancement. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on the immediate cost savings without considering the potential for increased operational risk or the need for ongoing maintenance, is also flawed. While cost-effectiveness is important, it should not come at the expense of system stability and security. Ignoring the potential for future issues or the need for specialized skills to manage the optimized system can lead to higher long-term costs and greater operational headaches. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the objective. Clearly define what the optimization aims to achieve and its potential benefits. 2. Assess the risks. Identify all potential negative consequences, including performance issues, security vulnerabilities, and compatibility problems. 3. Evaluate feasibility. Determine if the optimization can be implemented within existing infrastructure and resource constraints. 4. Develop a testing plan. Design comprehensive tests to validate the optimization in a controlled environment. 5. Create a rollback strategy. Prepare a plan to revert to the previous state if the optimization causes problems. 6. Implement change management. Follow established procedures for notifying stakeholders and gaining approval. 7. Monitor performance. Continuously observe the system after deployment to detect any anomalies. This systematic process ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and the overall health and efficiency of the WebLogic server environment are maintained. Question 7. The risk matrix shows a critical security vulnerability in a core WebLogic server application with no immediate vendor-provided patch available. The business has stressed the extreme unacceptability of any application downtime. Which of the following is the most professionally responsible course of action to mitigate the immediate risk? Option A. Apply a vendor-recommended workaround, thoroughly tested in a staging environment, while awaiting a definitive patch. Option B. Roll back the affected application to its previous stable version to eliminate the vulnerability. Option C. Continue normal operations and wait for the vendor to release a fully tested patch, accepting the inherent risk. Option D. Develop and deploy a custom patch internally to address the vulnerability immediately. The correct answer is A. Apply a vendor-recommended workaround, thoroughly tested in a staging environment while awaiting a definitive patch. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration where a critical security vulnerability is identified. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for security remediation with the operational imperative of maintaining application availability and performance. The organization's reliance on the affected applications, coupled with potential downtime costs and user impact, creates significant pressure to act swiftly but cautiously. The absence of a readily available, tested patch adds complexity, forcing a decision between applying a potentially unstable workaround or accepting a period of increased risk. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured, risk-based decision-making process that prioritizes security while minimizing operational disruption. This aligns with best practices in IT governance and security management, which emphasize proactive risk assessment and mitigation. Applying a vendor-provided workaround, thoroughly tested in a non-production environment, represents a prudent interim solution. This approach acknowledges the vulnerability and takes immediate steps to reduce exposure without introducing unmanaged risks associated with untested, custom solutions or prolonged denial of service. The subsequent application of a fully tested patch once available ensures long-term security and stability, adhering to the principle of least privilege and defense in depth. This methodical approach is implicitly supported by general IT security principles that guide responsible system administration, aiming to protect data and services while maintaining operational continuity. Incorrect approaches analysis. Ignoring the vulnerability until a fully tested patch is available is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach demonstrates negligence in fulfilling the duty of care to protect the organization's systems and data from known threats. It exposes the organization to potential data breaches, service disruptions, and reputational damage, which could have severe legal and financial repercussions. This inaction directly contravenes the principles of proactive security management expected of IT professionals. Implementing a custom-developed patch without vendor validation or thorough testing in a staging environment is also professionally unacceptable. This approach introduces a high degree of risk, as custom solutions may contain their own vulnerabilities, introduce performance issues, or cause unforeseen application incompatibilities. This deviates from established IT best practices that advocate for controlled change management and reliance on vendor-supported solutions for critical security issues. The potential for introducing new, unmanaged risks outweighs the perceived benefit of immediate, albeit unverified, remediation. Rolling back the entire application to a previous stable state without assessing the impact on current data and ongoing business processes is a drastic measure that can lead to significant operational disruption and data loss. While it might temporarily mitigate the immediate security risk, it fails to consider the business continuity requirements and the potential for data corruption or loss of critical transactions. This approach lacks a balanced consideration of security and operational needs. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a situation should employ a structured risk management framework. This involves 1. Threat identification, recognizing the critical security vulnerability. 2. Impact assessment, understanding the potential consequences of exploitation, data breach, service disruption, financial loss. 3. Risk analysis, evaluating the likelihood and severity of the threat. 4. Mitigation strategy development, brainstorming and evaluating potential solutions, vendor patch, workaround, rollback, custom fix. 5. Solution selection, choosing the option that best balances security, availability, and feasibility, prioritizing tested and vendor-supported solutions where possible. 6. Implementation and testing, applying the chosen solution in a controlled manner, with thorough testing in non-production environments before deployment to production. 7. Monitoring and verification, continuously monitoring the system for any adverse effects and verifying the effectiveness of the implemented solution. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and the organization's assets are protected. Question 8. The audit findings indicate a potential security vulnerability within the configuration of a newly deployed Oracle WebLogic Server 12c cluster. Business stakeholders are pressing for immediate go-live to meet critical market deadlines. What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure both security and business continuity? Option A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment to identify all affected systems, data, and business processes, and evaluate the severity and likelihood of exploitation before proceeding with any deployment or remediation. Option B. Apply the latest vendor patch to the WebLogic server cluster without further investigation, as patches are designed to fix vulnerabilities. Option C. Proceed with the go-live immediately, assuming the vulnerability is minor and will be addressed by a future vendor patch. Option D. Postpone the go-live indefinitely until a comprehensive security overhaul of the entire infrastructure can be completed. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment to identify all affected systems, data, and business processes, and evaluate the severity and likelihood of exploitation before proceeding with any deployment or remediation. Explanation. The audit findings indicate a potential security vulnerability related to the deployment of a new WebLogic Server 12c cluster. The challenge lies in balancing the need for rapid deployment to meet business demands with the imperative to maintain a secure and compliant operational environment. This scenario requires a thorough impact assessment to understand the potential consequences of the identified vulnerability and to inform the decision-making process regarding remediation and deployment. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented impact assessment. This process should identify all affected systems, data, and business processes. It necessitates evaluating the severity of the vulnerability, the likelihood of exploitation, and the potential business disruption or data compromise. This aligns with best practices for risk management and IT governance, ensuring that decisions are data-driven and prioritize the protection of sensitive information and the continuity of business operations. Regulatory frameworks, while not explicitly detailed in the prompt for this exam, generally mandate due diligence in security and risk management, requiring organizations to proactively identify and mitigate threats. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with the deployment without a proper impact assessment. This demonstrates a disregard for established security protocols and risk management principles. It exposes the organization to significant risks, including potential data breaches, service disruptions, and reputational damage. From a regulatory perspective, such an oversight could be interpreted as a failure to implement adequate security controls, potentially leading to non-compliance with data protection laws and industry-specific regulations. Another incorrect approach is to solely rely on vendor patches without understanding their specific impact on the existing environment. Patches are crucial. Their application can sometimes introduce unintended side effects or may not fully address the root cause of the vulnerability in a specific configuration. This reactive approach bypasses the critical step of understanding the broader implications for the deployed applications and infrastructure, potentially leading to new or unaddressed risks. Finally, deferring the assessment indefinitely due to perceived time constraints is also professionally unacceptable. This signifies a failure to prioritize security and risk management, which can have severe long-term consequences. It suggests a culture that undervalues security, making the organization more susceptible to attacks and breaches, and potentially leading to significant financial and legal repercussions. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with understanding the identified issue. This involves gathering all relevant information, performing a comprehensive impact assessment, evaluating potential remediation strategies, and then making an informed decision based on the assessed risks and business priorities. This process should be documented to ensure accountability and provide an audit trail. Question 9. Governance review demonstrates that the planned upgrade of the Oracle WebLogic Server 12c environment is proceeding without a formal, comprehensive analysis of its potential effects on interconnected applications, existing security protocols, and critical business operations. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible and compliant course of action? Option A. Halt the upgrade process immediately and initiate a detailed impact assessment covering all dependencies, potential risks, and mitigation strategies before proceeding. Option B. Expedite the upgrade to leverage new features, conducting a post-implementation review to address any issues that arise. Option C. Continue with the upgrade but focus the impact assessment solely on the direct technical components of the WebLogic server itself. Option D. Proceed with the upgrade as scheduled, relying on the vendor's documentation and assuming minimal disruption to existing systems. The correct answer is A. Halt the upgrade process immediately and initiate a detailed impact assessment covering all dependencies, potential risks, and mitigation strategies before proceeding. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT governance where a critical system upgrade, WebLogic Server 12c, is planned without a thorough impact assessment. The professional challenge lies in balancing the urgency of modernization with the imperative to maintain operational stability, security, and compliance. Failure to conduct a proper impact assessment can lead to unforeseen disruptions, data loss, security vulnerabilities, and non-compliance with regulatory requirements, all of which carry significant financial and reputational risks. The absence of a structured approach to evaluating the consequences of such a significant change necessitates a proactive and systematic risk management strategy. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that meticulously analyzes the potential effects of the WebLogic Server 12c upgrade across all affected IT components and business processes. This includes evaluating dependencies on existing applications, databases, middleware, and network infrastructure. It also requires assessing the impact on security configurations, performance metrics, and user access. Furthermore, a robust impact assessment must consider the implications for disaster recovery and business continuity plans. This systematic evaluation ensures that potential risks are identified, understood, and mitigated before the upgrade is implemented, thereby safeguarding operational integrity and compliance with established IT governance frameworks. This aligns with best practices in IT service management and risk management, emphasizing a proactive rather than reactive stance to change. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing the upgrade immediately based on vendor recommendations without a detailed impact assessment represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach disregards the fundamental principle of change management, which mandates understanding the consequences of any alteration to a production environment. It exposes the organization to substantial risks of service disruption, data corruption, and security breaches, potentially violating data protection regulations and internal security policies. Proceeding with the upgrade solely based on the availability of a new feature set, without considering its integration and compatibility with the existing ecosystem, is another professionally unacceptable approach. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to adhere to established IT governance principles. It can lead to unforeseen compatibility issues, performance degradation, and increased support costs, all of which are detrimental to business operations and could lead to non-compliance with service-level agreements. Focusing the impact assessment only on the direct technical components of the WebLogic server itself, while neglecting the interconnected applications and business processes that rely on it, is a critical oversight. This narrow focus fails to capture the full scope of potential disruptions. It can result in critical business functions being impaired post-upgrade, leading to operational failures and potential breaches of regulatory obligations related to service availability and data integrity. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-based approach to change management. This involves 1. Clearly defining the scope of the change. 2. Identifying all potential stakeholders and affected systems. 3. Conducting a thorough impact analysis, considering technical, operational, security, and business process implications. 4. Developing a comprehensive mitigation and rollback plan. 5. Obtaining formal approval based on the assessment findings. 6. Executing the change with rigorous testing and monitoring. This systematic process ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and compliance is maintained. Question 10. What factors determine the most appropriate strategy for applying security patches to a production Oracle WebLogic Server 12c environment, considering the need to minimize operational disruption while ensuring system security? Option A. The total number of security advisories issued by Oracle in the past quarter, regardless of their relevance to the specific WebLogic server configuration. Option B. The criticality of the vulnerability as assessed by the vendor, the potential impact of exploitation on business operations and data integrity, and the availability of rollback procedures. Option C. The perceived urgency of the patch based on anecdotal reports from online forums and the ease of downloading the patch file. Option D. The frequency of previous patching cycles for the WebLogic server instance and the personal preference of the lead administrator. The correct answer is B. The criticality of the vulnerability as assessed by the vendor, the potential impact of exploitation on business operations and data integrity, and the availability of rollback procedures. Explanation. The scenario of managing security vulnerabilities in a production Oracle WebLogic server environment presents a significant professional challenge. The core difficulty lies in balancing the imperative to maintain system integrity and protect sensitive data against the operational risks associated with applying patches and updates. Downtime, even for critical security fixes, can have substantial business implications, including lost revenue, reputational damage, and disruption to end users. Stakeholders, such as business unit managers, compliance officers, and IT operations teams, will have differing priorities and risk tolerances, necessitating careful negotiation and communication. The correct approach, which involves a thorough risk assessment and a phased deployment strategy, represents best professional practice. This aligns with general IT governance principles and within the context of U.S. regulations, as implied by the exam's typical focus on enterprise IT environments, would support compliance with frameworks like NIST Cybersecurity Framework or specific industry regulations, e.g., HIPAA for healthcare, PCI DSS for payment card industry, that mandate risk management and timely remediation of vulnerabilities. A phased deployment, starting with a non-production environment and then a pilot in production, minimizes the blast radius of any unforeseen issues, ensuring business continuity while still addressing security risks. This methodical approach demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to responsible system administration. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate patching without adequate testing or risk assessment fails to acknowledge the potential for unintended consequences. This could lead to system instability, data corruption, or service outages, directly contravening the principle of maintaining operational availability and potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs. From a regulatory perspective, such a reactive and unmanaged approach could be seen as a failure to implement reasonable security controls, leaving the organization exposed to breaches and subsequent penalties. Another incorrect approach, which involves delaying patching indefinitely due to fear of disruption, represents a critical security and compliance failure. This inaction leaves the system vulnerable to known exploits, increasing the likelihood of a successful cyber attack. In a U.S. regulatory context, this would be a clear violation of the duty of care to protect data and systems, potentially leading to significant legal and financial repercussions if a breach occurs. It demonstrates a lack of proactive security posture and an abdication of responsibility. Finally, an approach that relies solely on vendor advisories without internal validation or understanding of the specific environment's impact is also professionally unsound. While vendor advisories are crucial, they are generic. Each organization's WebLogic server configuration, application dependencies, and operational context are unique. Failing to validate the impact of a patch within the specific environment before deployment can lead to unexpected compatibility issues or performance degradation, negating the intended security benefit and introducing new operational risks. This lack of tailored due diligence can be viewed as a failure to adequately manage IT risks. The professional decision-making process for such situations should involve a structured risk management framework. This includes identifying the vulnerability, assessing its severity and exploitability, evaluating the potential impact of the vulnerability being exploited, and then determining the appropriate remediation strategy. This strategy should consider the urgency of the fix, the availability of resources, the potential impact of the fix itself, including testing and deployment, and the business's tolerance for risk. Continuous communication with stakeholders throughout this process is paramount to ensure alignment and manage expectations. Question 11. Operational review demonstrates that the WebLogic Server 12c administration server is communicating with its managed servers over an unencrypted HTTP channel. This poses a significant security risk as sensitive management data is being transmitted in plain text. What is the most appropriate and secure method to address this vulnerability and ensure secure inter-server communication within the WebLogic domain? Option A. Configure SSL/TLS for the administration server to encrypt all communication with managed servers. Option B. Implement a custom encryption protocol for inter-server communication. Option C. Disable SSL/TLS on the administration server to reduce network overhead. Option D. Rely solely on network-level firewalls to secure the communication channel. The correct answer is A. Configure SSL/TLS for the administration server to encrypt all communication with managed servers. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, ensuring secure and compliant communication between server instances. The professional challenge lies in balancing performance and security requirements while adhering to the strict security protocols mandated by Oracle's best practices and potentially industry-specific regulations. Though for this exam, we focus on the Oracle framework. Misconfiguration can lead to security vulnerabilities, denial of service conditions, or operational instability, all of which have significant business implications. The need for a robust and secure inter-server communication mechanism is paramount for the integrity and availability of the application. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves configuring SSL/TLS for the administration server to secure its communication channel with managed servers. This is best professional practice because it directly addresses the security vulnerability of unencrypted communication. By enabling SSL/TLS, all data exchanged between the administration server and managed servers, including sensitive configuration details and operational commands, is encrypted. This aligns with Oracle's security guidelines for WebLogic Server, which strongly recommends securing all network traffic. This practice prevents eavesdropping and man-in-the-middle attacks, ensuring the confidentiality and integrity of the management plane. Incorrect approaches analysis. Disabling SSL/TLS on the administration server is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It directly violates security best practices and exposes the entire WebLogic domain to severe security risks. Unencrypted communication allows attackers to intercept sensitive credentials, configuration data, and control commands, leading to unauthorized access and potential compromise of the entire infrastructure. This is professionally unacceptable, as it demonstrates a disregard for security principles and the protection of sensitive information. Implementing a custom encryption protocol without leveraging WebLogic's built-in SSL/TLS capabilities is also an incorrect approach. The intent might be to secure communication. Custom solutions are notoriously difficult to implement correctly and securely. They often introduce new vulnerabilities and can be incompatible with standard security tools and practices. This approach bypasses well-tested and industry-standard security mechanisms, increasing the risk of implementation errors and security breaches. It is professionally unsound because it deviates from established, secure, and supported methods. Relying solely on network-level firewalls to protect inter-server communication without configuring SSL/TLS within WebLogic itself is insufficient. Firewalls provide perimeter security but do not encrypt the actual data traversing the network. If the network is compromised or if internal threats exist, unencrypted traffic between WebLogic servers remains vulnerable to interception and manipulation. This approach fails to provide end-to-end security for the management traffic, leaving a critical gap in the security posture. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach this situation by first understanding the core security requirements for inter-server communication in WebLogic Server. This involves consulting Oracle's official documentation and security best practices for the specific version being used. The decision-making process should prioritize established, secure, and supported methods. When faced with a security configuration task, the default and recommended approach, SSL/TLS for management traffic, should be the starting point. Any deviation from this should be rigorously justified and involve a thorough risk assessment. The professional should always consider the potential impact of their decisions on the security, availability, and compliance of the system. In this case, the immediate and most effective solution is to implement the standard SSL/TLS configuration. Question 12. The control framework reveals that a critical business application, deployed on a cluster of Oracle WebLogic Server 12c instances, has been experiencing intermittent performance degradation and occasional security alerts. The development team has provided a new version of the application with performance enhancements and security patches. As the WebLogic Server administrator, you are tasked with deploying this update, considering the need for a secure, auditable, and stable production environment. Which deployment strategy best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory expectations for managing enterprise applications? Option A. Utilize the WebLogic Server Administration Console or WLSD scripts to perform a rolling deployment of the new application version across the cluster, ensuring proper rollback procedures are in place. Option B. Directly copy the updated application files into the deployed application directories on each WebLogic Server instance in the cluster, then restart the servers. Option C. Manually reconfigure the security settings for the updated application on each server individually after the files have been replaced, based on the development team's notes. Option D. Deploy the application directly to the production environment without prior testing in a staging environment, as the development team assures the changes are minor. The correct answer is B. Directly copy the updated application files into the deployed application directories on each WebLogic Server instance in the cluster, then restart the servers. Explanation. The control framework reveals a common challenge in enterprise environments, ensuring consistent and secure application deployment across a distributed WebLogic server infrastructure. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for rapid deployment and updates with the imperative to maintain security, compliance, and operational stability. Missteps can lead to security vulnerabilities, data breaches, compliance violations, and significant downtime, all of which carry substantial financial and reputational costs. The correct approach, which involves leveraging WebLogic Server's native deployment features and adhering to established change management processes, represents best professional practice because it is inherently designed for managing application lifecycles within the Oracle ecosystem. This method ensures that deployments are logged, versioned, and can be rolled back if necessary, aligning with principles of auditable and controlled IT operations. Furthermore, it allows for granular control over deployment targets, security configurations, and resource allocation, all critical for maintaining a secure and compliant environment as mandated by general IT governance best practices, which are implicitly expected in a professional Oracle administration context. An incorrect approach that bypasses standard deployment tools and directly manipulates deployed application files on the server file system is professionally unacceptable. This failure directly contravenes principles of controlled change management and auditability. It introduces significant security risks by circumventing security checks and permissions inherent in the WebLogic deployment process, potentially allowing unauthorized code execution. From a compliance perspective, it makes it impossible to accurately track what has been deployed, when, and by whom, leading to potential violations of data protection and operational integrity regulations. Another incorrect approach, such as deploying applications without proper testing in a staging environment, represents a failure in due diligence and risk management. This can lead to the introduction of bugs or performance issues into the production environment, causing service disruptions and impacting business operations. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of responsibility towards end users and the organization's service-level commitments. A third incorrect approach, which involves manually configuring security settings for each deployed application without a centralized policy or automation, is also professionally unsound. This leads to inconsistencies in security posture across applications, creating potential vulnerabilities. It is inefficient and prone to human error, increasing the likelihood of security misconfigurations that could be exploited. This approach fails to adhere to the principle of least privilege and consistent security enforcement, which are fundamental to robust security frameworks. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the WebLogic server's capabilities, adherence to organizational change management policies, and a risk-based approach to deployment. This includes 1. Understanding the specific requirements of the application and its deployment environment. 2. Consulting and strictly following established change control procedures, including impact analysis and rollback planning. 3. Utilizing WebLogic servers' built-in deployment tools, e.g., WLSD Administration Console Maven plugins, for consistent and auditable deployments. 4. Ensuring comprehensive testing in non-production environments that mirror production as closely as possible. 5. Implementing and verifying security configurations as part of the deployment process, ideally through automated scripts or policies. 6. Maintaining detailed documentation of all deployment activities. Question 13. The monitoring system demonstrates a sudden and significant increase in response times for critical user transactions within a production Oracle WebLogic Server 12c cluster, accompanied by a spike in CPU utilization on several managed servers. Which of the following diagnostic actions is the most appropriate initial step to identify the root cause? Option A. Analyze the WebLogic server diagnostic logs and JVM performance metrics for anomalies and error messages. Option B. Immediately increase the maximum heap size for all JVMs in the cluster to accommodate potential memory pressure. Option C. Initiate a rolling restart of all managed servers in the cluster to clear potential transient issues. Option D. Temporarily disable all security filters and interceptors to rule out their impact on transaction processing. The correct answer is C. Initiate a rolling restart of all managed servers in the cluster to clear potential transient issues. Explanation. The monitoring system demonstrates a critical performance degradation in a production Oracle WebLogic Server 12c environment, specifically impacting the availability of a key business application. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires immediate, accurate diagnosis and remediation under pressure, with potential for significant financial and reputational damage if mishandled. The administrator must balance the urgency of restoring service with the need to avoid introducing further instability or violating operational policies. The correct approach involves a systematic investigation of WebLogic server logs, performance metrics, and potentially JVM heap dumps or thread dumps to pinpoint the root cause of the degradation. This aligns with best professional practices for incident management, emphasizing data-driven decision-making and adherence to established troubleshooting methodologies. In the context of Oracle WebLogic Server 12c administration, this means leveraging the diagnostic tools and logging capabilities provided by the platform itself to gather evidence. Regulatory compliance, while not explicitly detailed in the 1Z0-133 syllabus as a specific jurisdiction, implies adherence to internal IT governance, security policies, and service-level agreements, SLAs, which are implicitly part of professional administration. A methodical approach ensures that actions taken are justifiable and auditable, minimizing the risk of unintended consequences. An incorrect approach would be to immediately restart the server or individual managed servers without understanding the underlying issue. This is a reactive measure that might temporarily alleviate symptoms, but fails to address the root cause, potentially leading to recurring problems. From a professional and implicit regulatory standpoint, this bypasses the requirement for thorough investigation and documentation, making it difficult to learn from the incident and prevent future occurrences. It also risks data corruption or loss if the degradation is related to transactional integrity. Another incorrect approach is to indiscriminately adjust JVM heap sizes or garbage collection parameters without a clear hypothesis based on observed symptoms. This is akin to shotgun debugging and can exacerbate performance issues or introduce new ones, such as excessive garbage collection pauses or out-of-memory errors. This violates the principle of controlled experimentation and can lead to an unstable environment, contravening the implicit professional duty to maintain system integrity. Finally, ignoring the monitoring alerts and assuming the issue will resolve itself is a severe dereliction of duty. This directly violates SLAs and demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility. It exposes the organization to significant business disruption and potential financial penalties, and it fails to uphold the core tenets of system administration, which include proactive monitoring and timely response to critical events. The professional decision-making process should involve 1. Acknowledging and prioritizing the alert. 2. Gathering initial diagnostic data from monitoring tools and logs. 3. Formulating a hypothesis about the root cause. 4. Testing the hypothesis with targeted diagnostic actions. 5. Implementing a solution based on confirmed findings. 6. Verifying the resolution and documenting the incident. Question 14. Market research demonstrates that secure communication between distributed components within an Oracle WebLogic Server 12c environment is paramount for protecting sensitive data. An administrator is tasked with configuring the communication channel between two managed servers within the same domain to ensure that data exchanged is protected from unauthorized access. Which of the following configurations best addresses this requirement for secure inter-server communication? Option A. Transmit all data between the managed servers in plain text. Option B. Rely solely on firewall rules to restrict network access between the managed servers. Option C. Configure SSL/TLS for the communication channel between the managed servers, ensuring proper certificate management. Option D. Implement a custom encryption algorithm that is not based on industry-standard protocols. The correct answer is C. Configure SSL/TLS for the communication channel between the managed servers, ensuring proper certificate management. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, ensuring secure and compliant communication between different components of an application. The professional challenge lies in selecting the most appropriate security configuration for intercomponent communication, balancing security needs with performance and manageability, all while adhering to the implicit regulatory expectations of secure system design and operation within the context of the 1Z0-133 Oracle WebLogic Server 12c. Administration I exams assume jurisdiction, which, for this exam, is generally understood to be a generic enterprise IT environment without specific national regulatory mandates beyond standard IT security best practices. The correct approach involves leveraging WebLogic servers' built-in security features, specifically SSL/TLS, to encrypt the communication channel. This is best professional practice because it directly addresses the requirement for secure data transmission, preventing eavesdropping and man-in-the-middle attacks. Using SSL/TLS with properly configured certificates ensures the authenticity of the communicating components and the confidentiality of the data exchanged. This aligns with general IT security principles and the implicit need for data protection in enterprise applications. An incorrect approach would be to transmit sensitive data without any encryption. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure because it exposes data to interception and compromise, violating fundamental principles of data security and potentially leading to breaches of confidentiality. Another incorrect approach would be to use a weak or outdated encryption protocol. This also represents a failure, as it provides a false sense of security while still leaving the communication vulnerable to modern decryption techniques, thus failing to meet the standard of due care expected in secure system design. A third incorrect approach might be to rely solely on network-level security without application-level encryption. While network security is important, it does not guarantee end-to-end data protection if the network itself is compromised or if data is accessed at an intermediate point before reaching its final destination. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment. This includes identifying sensitive data, understanding the communication pathways, and evaluating potential threats. Based on this assessment, administrators should select security mechanisms that provide an appropriate level of protection. Consulting WebLogic server documentation for best practices in configuring SSL/TLS and other security features is crucial. Furthermore, understanding the application's specific security requirements and any relevant industry standards or compliance frameworks, even if not explicitly stated as national regulations for this exam, should guide the decision-making process. Question 15. The evaluation methodology shows a scenario where a WebLogic server administrator is tasked with improving application response times. The administrator considers several methods to achieve this, but also recognizes the critical need to maintain a secure environment. Which of the following approaches best balances performance optimization with security hardening in a production WebLogic Server 12c environment? Option A. Systematically review and tune WebLogic server security settings, such as SSL/TLS cipher suites and authentication protocols, while monitoring application performance and conducting thorough testing after each adjustment. Option B. Implement aggressive caching mechanisms without considering their potential impact on the security of sensitive data being cached. Option C. Increase the maximum thread pool size significantly without assessing the underlying security implications of handling a larger volume of concurrent requests. Option D. Disable all non-essential security features and protocols within WebLogic server to maximize resource availability for applications. The correct answer is A. Systematically review and tune WebLogic server security settings, such as SSL/TLS cipher suites and authentication protocols, while monitoring application performance and conducting thorough testing after each adjustment. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, balancing performance optimization with security hardening. In a production environment, administrators are tasked with ensuring applications are responsive and available, while simultaneously protecting sensitive data and system integrity. This requires a nuanced understanding of WebLogic's configuration options and their implications. The professional challenge lies in making informed decisions that satisfy both business requirements for performance and regulatory mandates for security, without compromising either. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and controlled method for security configuration. By first establishing a baseline of acceptable security posture and then incrementally applying security measures, administrators can effectively monitor the impact on performance. This iterative process, coupled with thorough testing and validation, ensures that security enhancements do not introduce unintended performance degradations or application instability. This aligns with general IT best practices for change management and risk mitigation, which are implicitly supported by the need for secure and reliable system operation, a core tenet of responsible IT governance. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on disabling security features to improve performance is professionally unacceptable. This represents a severe regulatory and ethical failure. It directly contravenes the principle of least privilege and the fundamental requirement to protect systems and data from unauthorized access and malicious attacks. Such an approach exposes the organization to significant risks, including data breaches, compliance violations, depending on the specific industry and data handled, and reputational damage. It demonstrates a disregard for security best practices and a failure to uphold the administrator's duty of care. Another incorrect approach that involves applying security configurations without understanding their performance implications is also professionally problematic. While the intent might be to enhance security, the lack of foresight regarding performance impact can lead to system slowdowns, application unresponsiveness, and ultimately, service disruption. This can result in user dissatisfaction, lost productivity, and potential business losses. It indicates a lack of thorough planning and testing, which are critical components of effective system administration. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a comprehensive risk assessment. Administrators must first understand the security requirements and potential threats relevant to their environment. Concurrently, they need to benchmark current performance levels. When considering security configurations, each change should be evaluated for its potential impact on performance. A phased implementation, accompanied by rigorous testing in a non-production environment, is crucial. Documentation of all changes and their observed effects is also essential for auditing and future troubleshooting. This methodical approach ensures that security is enhanced without detrimentally affecting the operational efficiency of the WebLogic server. Question 16. Process analysis reveals that a critical business application deployed on Oracle WebLogic Server 12c requires integration with an external financial service to retrieve real-time transaction data. The current integration is configured to use HTTP without any encryption, to enhance security and protect the sensitive financial data being exchanged. What is the most appropriate configuration approach for the WebLogic server's outbound connection to this external service? Option A. Configure the outbound connection to use HTTPS and trust any certificate presented by the external service without performing certificate validation. Option B. Configure the outbound connection to use HTTPS, but allow the use of outdated SSLv3 protocol and weak cipher suites to ensure compatibility with older systems. Option C. Configure the WebLogic server's outbound connection to use HTTPS enabling TLS with strong, industry-standard cipher suites, and ensuring proper validation of the external services SSL certificate. Option D. Disable all SSL/TLS protocols for the outbound connection to maximize performance and simplify configuration. The correct answer is C. Configure the WebLogic server's outbound connection to use HTTPS, enabling TLS with strong, industry-standard cipher suites, and ensuring proper validation of the external services SSL certificate. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, ensuring secure and compliant communication between distributed application components. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient data exchange with the imperative to protect sensitive information from unauthorized access or interception. Misconfiguration in this area can lead to security vulnerabilities, data breaches, and non-compliance with industry standards and potentially regulatory requirements. Though specific regulations are not detailed in the exam syllabus, the principle of secure communication is universally applicable in enterprise environments. The need for careful judgment arises from understanding the implications of different security protocols and their impact on performance and interoperability. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves configuring WebLogic server to use transport layer security, TLS, with appropriate cipher suites for the communication channel between the managed server and the external service. TLS provides encryption and authentication, ensuring that data transmitted is protected from eavesdropping and tampering. By selecting strong, industry-standard cipher suites and ensuring the correct configuration of key stores and trust stores, administrators uphold best practices for secure communication. This aligns with the general principle of least privilege and defense in depth, which are fundamental to secure system design and operation. The exam syllabus emphasizes security configuration, and TLS is a core component of securing network traffic in WebLogic. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to disable SSL/TLS entirely for the connection to the external service. This is a severe security failure, as it exposes all transmitted data in plain text, making it vulnerable to interception and modification. This directly violates the principle of confidentiality and integrity of data, which are foundational to secure IT practices. Another incorrect approach would be to use an outdated or weak SSL/TLS protocol version, e.g., SSL v3 or early TLS versions, with weak cipher suites. Technically using encryption, these older protocols and ciphers are known to have vulnerabilities that can be exploited by attackers. This represents a failure to keep systems updated with current security best practices and exposes the system to known exploits, demonstrating a lack of due diligence in maintaining a secure environment. A third incorrect approach would be to configure the connection to trust any certificate presented by the external service without proper validation. This bypasses the authentication mechanism of TLS, rendering it ineffective against man-in-the-middle attacks. The server would be susceptible to connecting to a malicious imposter masquerading as the legitimate external service, leading to data compromise. This demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of how TLS authentication works and a failure to implement proper security controls. Professional reasoning. When faced with a requirement to integrate with an external service, a WebLogic administrator should first assess the sensitivity of the data being exchanged and the security posture of the external service. The default and recommended approach for any communication involving sensitive data or over untrusted networks is to employ strong encryption and authentication. This involves understanding the capabilities of WebLogic server security features, including SSL/TLS configuration, key store management, and the selection of appropriate security protocols and cipher suites. The decision-making process should prioritize security and compliance, followed by performance considerations. If a specific security protocol or configuration is mandated by internal policies or industry best practices, that should be the guiding principle. Regular review and updates of security configurations are also crucial to mitigate emerging threats. Question 17. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent pattern of high CPU utilization and slow response times across multiple WebLogic Server 12c managed servers within a cluster, correlating with an increase in the number of active requests. Analysis of the server logs indicates a growing queue of pending requests and a high number of threads in the runnable state, suggesting that the server is struggling to process incoming requests efficiently. Which of the following actions is the most appropriate best practice to address this performance bottleneck? Option A. Restart all managed servers in the cluster simultaneously to clear active connections and threads. Option B. Increase the maximum heap size allocated to the Java Virtual Machine, JVM, for each managed server. Option C. Tune the Work Manager thread pool configuration to increase the maximum number of threads available for request processing. Option D. Disable connection pooling for all configured data sources within the WebLogic server domain. Correct answer is C. Tune the Work Manager thread pool configuration to increase the maximum number of threads available for request processing. Explanation. The monitoring system demonstrates a critical performance bottleneck in the Oracle WebLogic Server 12c environment, specifically related to thread pool exhaustion. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts application availability and user experience, potentially leading to service disruptions and financial losses. The administrator must not only identify the root cause, but also implement a solution that balances performance improvement with system stability and adherence to operational best practices. The urgency of the situation demands a swift yet methodical response, avoiding hasty changes that could introduce new problems. The correct approach involves a systematic investigation and configuration adjustment of the WebLogic server's Work Manager thread pools. This represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the identified bottleneck by tuning a core WebLogic server component responsible for managing request processing. By increasing the maximum threads or adjusting other Work Manager parameters, the administrator can alleviate thread starvation and improve the server's capacity to handle concurrent requests. This aligns with operational best practices for performance tuning, which emphasize understanding the underlying mechanisms and making informed, targeted adjustments. Furthermore, such actions should be performed within a controlled change management process, including testing and rollback plans, to ensure system integrity. An incorrect approach would be to indiscriminately increase the maximum heap size of the JVM. While insufficient heap can cause performance issues, thread pool exhaustion is a distinct problem related to the number of active threads processing requests, not the memory available for object storage. This approach fails to address the root cause and could lead to increased garbage collection pauses, further degrading performance or even causing out-of-memory errors, representing a failure in diagnostic accuracy and a violation of sound system administration principles. Another incorrect approach would be to restart all managed servers in the cluster without a thorough investigation. While a restart might temporarily alleviate the symptoms by clearing existing threads, it does not resolve the underlying cause of thread pool exhaustion. This is a reactive measure that can lead to service interruptions and is considered poor practice as it avoids proper root cause analysis and resolution, potentially masking a deeper configuration issue that will re-emerge. This approach demonstrates a lack of systematic problem solving and can be seen as an ethical lapse in providing a stable and reliable service. Finally, disabling connection pooling for the data sources would be an incorrect approach. Connection pooling is a critical optimization for database access, reducing the overhead of establishing new connections for each request. Disabling it would drastically increase the latency of database operations, likely exacerbating performance issues rather than resolving thread pool exhaustion, and would be a direct contravention of established performance tuning best practices for enterprise applications. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Accurate problem identification through monitoring tools. 2. Root cause analysis, understanding the specific WebLogic server components involved. 3. Evaluating potential solutions based on their direct impact on the identified cause. 4. Implementing changes within a structured change management framework. 5. Verifying the effectiveness of the solution and monitoring for unintended consequences. Question 18. The assessment process reveals that a WebLogic server instance, acting as a client, is unable to establish a secure SSL/TLS connection to an external financial service. The error logs indicate SSL handshake failures. The external financial service uses a certificate signed by a trusted certificate authority. What is the most appropriate administrative action to resolve this issue and ensure secure communication? Option A. Import the private key of the external financial service into the WebLogic server's trust store. Option B. Ignore the SSL handshake errors and configure the WebLogic server to proceed with the connection without SSL validation. Option C. Import the public certificate of the external financial service into the WebLogic server's trust store. Option D. Create a new self-signed certificate on the WebLogic server and import it into the external financial services trust store. The correct answer is C. Import the public certificate of the external financial service into the WebLogic server's trust store. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in WebLogic server administration, ensuring secure and compliant communication between different components of an application. The professional challenge lies in correctly configuring SSL/TLS to meet security requirements without introducing vulnerabilities or operational issues. Misconfiguration can lead to application downtime, data breaches, or non-compliance with security standards. The need for careful judgment arises from understanding the nuances of key store and trust store management, certificate validation, and the impact of different SSL/TLS protocols and cipher suites. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves establishing a trusted communication channel by importing the server's certificate into the client's trust store. This ensures that the client, the WebLogic server in this case, acting as a client to the external service, can verify the identity of the server it is connecting to. By importing the server's public certificate into the WebLogic server's trust store, the server trusts the external service. This is a fundamental security practice for secure communication, preventing man-in-the-middle attacks and ensuring data integrity and confidentiality. This aligns with general best practices for secure network communication and is implicitly supported by Oracle's security documentation for WebLogic server, which emphasizes the importance of proper key store and trust store management for secure communication. Incorrect approaches analysis. Importing the server's private key into the client's trust store is a critical security failure. A private key should never be shared or exposed. It is used to decrypt data and sign messages. Exposing it in a trust store compromises the security of the entire system, allowing unauthorized entities to impersonate the server. This is a direct violation of fundamental security principles and would lead to severe vulnerabilities. Creating a new self-signed certificate on the client and importing it into the server's trust store does not establish trust in the external service. Self-signed certificate is not issued by a trusted certificate authority, CA, and therefore does not provide a verifiable identity for the external service. The server would not be able to authenticate the client's identity, and the client would not be able to authenticate the server's identity, leading to an insecure connection. Ignoring the SSL/TLS handshake errors and proceeding with the connection bypasses all security checks. This is a severe security lapse that leaves the communication channel vulnerable to interception and manipulation. It indicates a complete disregard for security protocols and would expose sensitive data to potential attackers. Professional reasoning. When faced with SSL/TLS handshake errors, a professional administrator should first consult the WebLogic server logs for detailed error messages. The next step is to identify the components involved in the communication and their respective roles, client and server. The core of the problem usually lies in the trust relationship between these components. The administrator should then verify the certificates being used by both the client and the server, ensuring they are valid, not expired, and issued by trusted authorities, or properly trusted through explicit import into trust stores. The process of establishing trust typically involves importing the server's public certificate into the client's trust store. If the connection is between two WebLogic servers or between WebLogic server and an external service, the WebLogic server acting as the client must trust the server it is connecting to. This is achieved by ensuring the server's certificate is present and trusted within the WebLogic server's trust store. Question 19. Assessment of the most appropriate strategy for configuring security audit logging within Oracle WebLogic Server 12c to meet regulatory compliance requirements while maintaining acceptable operational performance. Option A. Disable all security-related logging features within WebLogic Server to maximize application and server performance, assuming that application-level logging is sufficient for any necessary auditing. Option B. Rely exclusively on application-specific logging mechanisms to capture security-relevant events, without configuring WebLogic Server's built-in security audit framework. Option C. Configure all WebLogic Server logs, including diagnostic and security audit logs, to the highest verbosity level, e.g., trace, across all components to ensure no event is missed, regardless of its operational or security significance. Option D. Implement detailed security audit logging for all critical security events, such as authentication, authorization, and administrative actions, while configuring less verbose logging for routine operational events, ensuring a balance between auditability and performance. The correct answer is D. Implement detailed security audit logging for all critical security events, such as authentication, authorization, and administrative actions, while configuring less verbose logging for routine operational events, ensuring a balance between auditability and performance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in enterprise IT environments where security and compliance requirements intersect with operational efficiency. The challenge lies in balancing the need to protect sensitive data processed by WebLogic server applications with the practicalities of managing and troubleshooting those applications. A misstep can lead to significant security vulnerabilities, regulatory noncompliance, and operational disruptions. The professional must navigate these competing demands with a thorough understanding of both WebLogic server's capabilities and the relevant regulatory landscape. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves implementing a robust logging strategy that captures essential security and operational events without compromising performance or exposing sensitive data unnecessarily. This aligns with best practices for security information and event management, SIEM, and regulatory compliance frameworks that mandate audit trails. Specifically, Oracle WebLogic Server 12c provides granular control over logging levels and destinations, allowing administrators to configure detailed audit logs for security-sensitive operations, e.g., authentication, authorization, administrative actions, while maintaining less verbose logs for routine operational events. This approach ensures that an auditable trail of critical activities is maintained for security investigations and compliance reporting, while minimizing the performance overhead and storage requirements associated with excessive logging. It directly supports the principle of least privilege and data minimization, key tenets of modern security and privacy regulations. Incorrect approaches analysis. Disabling all security-related logging to improve performance is a critical regulatory and ethical failure. This action directly violates audit trail requirements mandated by many compliance standards, such as SOX, HIPAA, or PCI DSS, depending on the industry and data handled. Without these logs, it becomes impossible to investigate security incidents, detect unauthorized access, or prove compliance during audits. It also represents a failure to uphold the duty of care to protect sensitive information. Logging all application and server events at the finest possible detail, e.g., debug or trace level for all components, without careful consideration of performance impact and data sensitivity, is also professionally unacceptable. Seemingly thorough, this approach can lead to overwhelming log volumes, making it difficult to identify critical events amidst the noise. More importantly, it can inadvertently log sensitive user data, e.g., passwords, personally identifiable information, that is not intended for audit purposes, creating a significant data privacy and security risk. This violates data minimization principles and can lead to noncompliance with privacy regulations. Relying solely on application-level logging without configuring WebLogic Server's own security audit logs is insufficient. WebLogic Server's audit framework captures critical infrastructure-level security events that applications might not log, such as administrative console access, security realm configuration changes, and deployment activities. Omitting these server-level logs creates blind spots in the overall security posture and audit trail, making it impossible to achieve comprehensive compliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach logging configuration by first understanding the specific regulatory requirements applicable to their organization and the data being processed. This involves identifying what events need to be logged for security monitoring, incident response, and compliance auditing. Next, they should consult the Oracle WebLogic Server 12c documentation to understand the available logging mechanisms, including security audit logging, diagnostic logging, and standard server logging. The configuration should then be tailored to capture the necessary information at appropriate detail levels, prioritizing security-relevant events. Performance implications must be considered, and a balance struck between comprehensive auditing and acceptable system overhead. Regular review and testing of the logging configuration are essential to ensure its effectiveness and compliance. Question 20. Comparative studies suggest that organizations operating under strict U.S. federal regulatory frameworks face significant challenges in securing their Oracle WebLogic Server 12c environments. When configuring WebLogic Server to meet these compliance mandates, which of the following approaches best ensures adherence to data protection and accountability requirements? Option A. Granting broad administrative privileges to all IT personnel who manage the server. Option B. Implementing granular role-based access control (RBAC) and comprehensive audit logging within WebLogic Server. Option C. Disabling audit logging to reduce system overhead and improve performance. Option D. Relying exclusively on external network firewalls to restrict access to the WebLogic Server. The correct answer is B. Implementing granular role-based access control (RBAC) and comprehensive audit logging within WebLogic Server. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in enterprise environments where security and compliance requirements are paramount. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient application deployment and management with the strict regulatory mandates governing data handling and access control. Specifically, the requirement to adhere to U.S. federal regulations, such as those pertaining to sensitive data protection, necessitates a robust and auditable security posture for the WebLogic Server environment. Misinterpreting or inadequately implementing these regulations can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The professional challenge is to select a configuration that not only meets functional requirements, but also demonstrably satisfies the compliance obligations without introducing unnecessary complexity or security vulnerabilities. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves leveraging WebLogic Server's built-in security features to enforce granular access control and audit logging, directly aligning with U.S. federal regulatory requirements for data protection and accountability. Implementing role-based access control (RBAC) ensures that only authorized personnel can access sensitive application data and administrative functions. Configuring comprehensive audit logging captures all significant security-related events, providing an auditable trail for compliance verification and incident investigation. This proactive security posture, integrated within the WebLogic Server's architecture, is the most effective way to meet regulatory demands for data integrity, confidentiality, and availability. It demonstrates a commitment to security best practices and regulatory adherence, which is a cornerstone of professional responsibility in regulated industries. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to rely solely on external network-level security measures, such as firewalls, without configuring internal access controls within WebLogic Server. While network security is important, it does not provide the granular control required by regulations that mandate specific user permissions and data access restrictions within the application server itself. This failure to implement internal access controls leaves the system vulnerable to insider threats or unauthorized access by individuals who may have network access, but are not authorized for specific application functions or data. Another incorrect approach is to disable or inadequately configure audit logging. U.S. federal regulations often require detailed logging of user activities, system events, and security-related incidents. Disabling audit logging or collecting insufficient data prevents the organization from demonstrating compliance, responding effectively to security breaches, or conducting thorough investigations. This oversight represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure, as it obstructs transparency and accountability. A third incorrect approach is to grant broad administrative privileges to a large group of users without a clear justification or a defined need. This practice violates the principle of least privilege, a fundamental security concept that is implicitly or explicitly required by many regulations. Over-provisioning access increases the attack surface and the risk of accidental or malicious misuse of sensitive data or system configurations, leading to potential compliance violations. Professional reasoning. Professionals tasked with securing WebLogic Server environments in regulated industries must adopt a defense-in-depth strategy that prioritizes compliance from the outset. The decision-making process should begin with a thorough understanding of applicable U.S. federal regulations, e.g., HIPAA for healthcare, SOX for financial reporting, FISMA for federal agencies. This understanding should then inform the selection and configuration of WebLogic servers' security features. Prioritize RBAC for precise access control, implement robust and comprehensive audit logging, and adhere to the principle of least privilege when assigning roles and permissions. Regularly review and update security configurations to align with evolving regulatory landscapes and threat intelligence. Documentation of security policies, configurations, and audit trails is crucial for demonstrating compliance during audits.